So you go from there, you're like stacking some cash on the side, and then what gets you into ShipSigma?
So I got a cold call. Man, this is getting better. So I get a cold call. It's from a company out in Emerald Isle, North Carolina. It's out there on the ocean, one of those Outer Bank spots. It's from an ex-UPS guy. And I looked up the company, and it's, all these ex-UPS folks that had left, a couple years prior. And they were a company that was helping high-volume shippers reduce costs. So I signed an NDA and went out there to go see him. And I get in the parking lot, and there's, Bentleys, Ferraris, all of, these, beautiful vehicles. And I'm thinking, these folks were at UPS 2 years ago. I mean, I had a higher position at that point than most of these people. Like, what's going on here? Something's going on here. And so I go and meet with these folks, and it looked, it looked like they were basically going to, these to the UPS and FedEx shippers of the world, and knowing kind of the internal workings of UPS, going to the shippers themselves, going right to them and lowering their costs through contract negotiations and contract auditing, contract compliance auditing, just these different ways that they knew and I knew, we knew that there were like leaking margin or had margin enhancement or just could get a better deal or just do things differently. And they said there was a lot of tech involved in it, and so the way that it was positioned to me, it seemed like just a great value prop. Right, they reduce cost and they get paid a percentage of savings. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that's an amazing value proposition. You're telling me you can go to somebody, reduce their cost, and just get paid on your performance. Okay, well, I mean, I can go do that. That's great. And at some point during that conversation, he slid a piece of paper to me that was a commission statement, and it had, I think, $300,000 on it. So somebody there was making $300,000 a year. And he goes, "Chase, that's what the worst guy makes." And that was my Southern accent. And then he says, "You ain't going to be the worst guy, is you?" In his beautiful Southern accent. And I said, "No, sir, I don't believe I will." And so I walked out the front door and I called UPS and I quit. So then
the same day, like in the parking lot.
The same day.
Heck yeah.
So I went from, making 100,000+ at UPS to zero here. Right? So I went to a 1099 consultant. Fast forward a year later, you kind of, where I'm sitting back in Emerald Isle, sitting in the, state of the company, future of the company type meeting. And they're talking about the tech roadmap. And I'm looking at it going, by this point, I was the number one sales resource there. And I'm sitting next to the guy that was the number two. And, just kind of what I found out is, the tech wasn't as great as they said. It wasn't automated as it was. It wasn't as amazing as, and I think that can be true at a lot of tech companies. So I said, what, I can do this. Like, they're not, what they're talking about, like, they haven't done it. I don't believe that they're going to do it. I'm going to go do it. So
you spent a year there?
Yeah.
And then you're like, hey, I'm leaving.
Yeah, so I came back to Indianapolis and I found some.
So were you living down there?
No, I was in Indianapolis. Broad Ripple, a couple miles from here.
Heck yeah.
Found, a friend, just being in supply chain logistics.
Do you quit on the spot? Like, how does that work when you're leaving to go kind of start a competitor?
Well, I found out the hard way that it's not a good idea to compete. Coming back, within my network, finding somebody that could help build, the vision of what I was wanting to build. That was June 1st, 2018. Then the next day I started selling a product I didn't have, messed around, started getting enterprise level clients, and found out, I shouldn't be competing, even though I was a 1099, right? At that, 1099 contractor, which generally means, you're a consultant, you're a contractor, you can do kind of whatever you want. But I'd essentially, signed my life away, and I shouldn't have been competing, apparently. So I was sued, and I ended up having to write a large check to be able to, walk away.
No way.
Yes, but
so you're starting. You're a startup, right?
Yeah.
You're take your savings that you've accumulated over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I still had to max out my credit cards, empty my 401k, even with the money that I was making with Amazon.
No way. Yeah. Empty your 401k to zero, like a bunch of that gone. Credit cards max.
It's all gone.
No way.
Oh yeah, building technology isn't cheap. I found out.
Okay,
but they'll tell you it's going to be 3 months and $55,000. It's actually going to be 3 years and. 5.5 million.
Yeah. So you not only are, having to build the tech and the roadmap and all this, you're also going through a lawsuit. And where were you at personally? Where were you at personally, like in your life? Did you have wife, kids at that point?
So I was my beautiful girlfriend. We were living together at that point. Corey, who's now my wife, kind of married to this grind, right? So you don't sleep. I'm sitting at the in the sunroom over here on Kessler and Carvel, with my big monitor and my computer. It's cold, because it's it's a beautiful old Broad Ripple bungalow. And I'm sitting up every single night, again, not sleeping, working with my team in Brazil to share vision and, do QA in the product that we're building. So essentially you're staying up every night, testing product, giving feedback, UI, UX, giving vision.
When did it feel like you had something here?
I still don't feel like I have something.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really? Was there like an early win where you're like, okay, like our solution does, because that is a common thing, right, in tech, to go sell the roadmap. Like, hey, we're building this company, we're building this product that's going to do this thing. When did you have a product that did a thing?
It's a tech-enabled services company. So, I mean, I was going out and negotiating contracts. The thing was going to help very much in that process, but I had to have it for the second part of the negotiation where we measure savings. So the tech allows us to be able to digitize anybody's old agreement, current agreement, and then every week when UPS and FedEx invoices come in, we're able to re-rate those shipments to measure the savings down to the penny on every line item.
And that helps you then send the invoice of like, hey,
and our system also generates the invoice, and so it's 100% transparent. It's fully auditable, right? Because we can all hold old contract, new contract, and invoice on a weekly basis, and we measure the savings down to the penny.
So
that was the initial, core that we needed to do.
So personally, you bet on yourself, all in,
100%.
all the money, everything on the table, and you're grinding, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the same week I started. I wrote on a note card that said, "Nobody's going to give it to you," and it's still in my desk drawer.
Hell yeah.
And mechanical pencil, which I love.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because you couldn't go out and afford the Sharpie pens on the startup budget. Okay, so talk to me about when you land that first customer. Like, how long did you have to grind before you got someone to believe in you and take a chance with you all?
About 45 days later, did a project for a Fortune 500 company that, I probably should have been paid. We should have been paid, maybe $1.5 million. Did it for $100,000 a year. So it was a $300,000 contract. Okay. So we generally get 3-year contracts.
Yeah. So 100K and like, hey, we got something going here. We got our first customer, but 45 days of kind of like,
and that was to get it signed, but you don't get paid until the negotiation is actually complete.
Those crazy like net 90 terms or whatever, and all of a sudden you're like, on paper,
it was a great. They're a great Fortune 500 company.
Great. Okay, I love that. Right? It's like all of a sudden, it's like, well, technically we're making money. We just have to wait for the check to come in the mail, and you're like,
they were good about sending checks.
Yeah, that's good.
So it was nice to know that was out there, right?
Okay,
like, so that having a couple anchors. And I think that's why you would maybe sometimes do things at a lower rate just to have some foundation or out there, right?
Right. Especially when you're going out and getting the startup, it's like find out what you need to live, right?
Yeah.
Like when I left, I was like, okay, I can survive. If I make this much money. So sell at that price, and then just start increasing from there.
And one of the reasons I told them I was going to concede on pricing was that, hey, so I know this is going to be amazing. I know we're going to do a great job. So I'd ask for you to be a third party reference. After we do an amazing job, I'd like for you to be able to speak to your experience.
Yeah, I love that. And it's like, and are they? I mean, did the whole contract go well? There's customer.
Yeah, they're still a client.
Hell yeah. So the first one's still there. That's special. Yeah. So you get the first one down, and then the tech is still coming along. But so I'm assuming a lot of that contract.
It's progressing rapidly. It's so long ago now, but I think within a 3-month period, we had something that could do something. It's still iterating now.
Yeah.
In some ways, because we still have our legacy product out there. Of course, a million things have changed to it, on a bi-weekly basis. And then we also are building a new stack.
When did you get to the point where you're like, okay, this is too much for one person to handle. I gotta go grow my team.
Pretty quickly. I mean, I think maybe 6 months down the road.
Wow.
So that's when when I was told you I was in Emerald Isle and the number 2 resource was there. He happened to live in Indianapolis, which was weird because there's only maybe 16 sales resources or consultants at that company in North Carolina. And that gentleman, that's number 2, he happened to be in Center Grove, where I grew up.